What's up, guys? Welcome into the I-80 Boys podcast. I am your co-host, Chris, the non-athletic fuck, as Christian calls me, Vaca. This douche canoe over here, as he usually calls me, is what's your name again?
It's Christian, but you can call me Mickey O'Toolahan since we're talking about the Irish. You fucking geriatric fuck.
Oh, there it is. It's been a couple episodes, but here we are. Awesome. Christian, what the hell are we talking about today, brother? What are we doing?
Man, today we're going to be going into, again, kind of like we talked about, we're going to be getting into Notre Dame. We're going to take a look back at how their season progressed last year, what to expect this year, what we think their record prediction is going to be for this year as well. And stick around at the end of the show. We're also going to do our favorite segment where we talk about our hot takes. You're not going to want to miss this. This features a very chippy Gamecock. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and make sure we cue the intro and get this thing started off.
Let's get it going. Let's get that connect.
All right, so Chris, welcoming you back into the show here. Notre Dame, kind of talk to me. How do you think they did last year? What are your thoughts on that, bud?
I tell you what, Marcus Freeman coming in there, after, he's definitely not my boy down there at LSU. I know he's yours. There's a lot riding on the plate, right? It's Notre Dame, big name school. I always called them America's college football team, kind of like the Dallas Cowboys are at the NFL. They started off, I believe, 0-2 last year. Things were not looking up at all those first two games. But and Christian's got them pulled up here right now for you guys. But, they turned it around, man. They got hot there as well. I think, the loss to Stanford probably was a game that they probably should have won, in my opinion. And I did watch that game, actually. It's ironic they have that up there. But end of the year, though, man, beating Clemson, beating the shit out of them, that was a big win, a huge win. They got them again this year. We'll talk about that later. But the loss to USC was tough, but USC was a good team. We all know that. I think, Freeman's got him headed on the right path, man. And, last year, new coach again, like I said, it's going to take time. He's got to get his players in there that fit his particular, style, and it's going to take some time. But I thought Notre Dame turned it around. I mean, you could say that about a lot of teams start off hot and then they look like shit at the end of the year, kind of like North Carolina did last year. So it's one big thing about Notre Dame I was impressed with last year. I'd like to actually hear your thoughts, Christian. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah, let's start with the lowlights from last year. I've got just a couple things, that we really have to kind of dive into here. Like you said, they lost to Marshall. I mean, that's a game, if you're a major Power 5 school, nothing against Marshall, you just can't afford to lose to Marshall. Stanford, I mean, they aren't the Stanford of late with, our boy Andrew Luck back there slinging the rock. I mean, it's not the powerhouse of the Pac-12 anymore.
Right.
And David Shaw is no longer the coach there at Stanford. So that's kind of, those two losses to me, those were kind of inexcusable. So here's the other side of it. This is a team that last year finished 60th in offense. All right. So they had a lot of struggles. Now, again, you could make the argument, they had a quarterback that was hurt early on in the season, and we'll kind of dig into that a little more here, I guess you'll say. But yeah, I think the highlights and what they did right, what went right for Notre Dame last year was, look, they held Ohio State in that opening game to 21 points. That was one of the most explosive offenses. I mean, even Georgia, couldn't hold them to 21. So to me, that's a huge accomplishment right out of the gate. They held them. I mean, it was a boring game. It was a kind of an old school kind of game.
Yeah, not to interject, but you got to remember too, for both teams, first game of the season, right? Ohio State's probably a little rusty. Notre Dame obviously was, but yes, I will say, and you look at that score, here's the thing that kind of kills me. Then the next week you play Marshall, who you would expect Notre Dame probably to beat by at least 20, goes out and lays an egg there, and like you said, again, just for me, and I'll kick it back over to you here in a second, but it's just I think Notre Dame overall, like I said, early season slump there, but they got it together. They rattled off what was that, an 8 out of 9 or whatever there. I mean, you can't be what more can you ask there? Like I said, the loss of Stanford, like you said, but I think with the new coach, man, they lost some players to the NFL after that. With Brian Kelly leaving too, you know what I mean? They had some transfers after he pulled out of there and kind of left him up in, shambles. I shouldn't say shambles, but didn't even coach him in the bowl game that year. Kind of a shitty thing in my opinion, but I'll kick it back over to you. Sorry, Christian. I was just, kind of interjecting on your Ohio State one, but 21 points up to one of the best offenses last year for sure is very impressive.
Yeah, but you can't be mad at the guy for that. I mean, that's kind of like, and I hate to say this because this might kind of draw a little bit of a little too real, might hit too real, for some of the listeners. But I mean, it's kind of like saying, "Hey, I'm, this marriage is over. I'm going to go start seeing someone else." But with that being said, can I still come over for Thanksgiving? Because it's next week. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't like Brian Kelly. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. Good. And, but I agree with you on that, but I can't fault the man for dipping. I mean, at the end of the day, I it's always kind of like, it's always weird when, like one of your coordinators is leaving to take another job, but they stay around to coach a bowl game or a playoff game or something like that. It's just weird.
Yeah. I guess I don't know, man. I guess I have a little bit different take on that. And this is something, maybe we can touch on in the future too, but like, I hate when college football or anything I've ever been a part of, and I'm sure it was the same for you, Christian. It's like you're a team first.
Yeah.
Kelly recruited those kids. I think you should finish the season with them. Even if you are leaving, I still think that you should finish the season with them. And it just bothered me. He did that, I believe, at what the hell was he at before? Was it Cincinnati? Before he took
I think it was. Yeah.
He did the same fucking thing. And I just think that's like, just to me, it's shitty. Like, I don't know, I might piss some people off, but I think you should finish the season out with your team. And I'm not knocking a guy for taking a better gig or whatever, but it's just like, man, I just don't like that because, players can't just, they can transfer, but like they're expected to play. I know a lot of people, we'll get into that someday about players playing bowl games nowadays if you're an NFL guy, but like they don't want you playing so you get hurt. But I don't know, man. I just think that like you should coach that last game. I just didn't like the way I just thought it was shady for like the second time he's done that. You had a good team. I mean, that year before Notre Dame was really good. So I don't know, man. But yeah, anyway, moving on, man.
Anyways, moving on. They had 4 top 25 wins last year. That's a positive right there. 9-win season for a first-year coach, Marcus Freeman. That's pretty awesome. They even beat a red-hot South Carolina team who we're going to cover later on in the show, towards the end of the season there, man. Those are all pretty good things, I would say, that Notre Dame did last year. Really, and kind of like the headline there says, it kind of is, we talk about luck of the Irish. It kind of was unlucky of the Irish last year at certain points, especially with that injury to Tyler Buckner and, just other pieces and stuff like that. It was just kind of a very anemic year, I feel like, for them on offense, trying to figure some things out.
Yeah, no, I don't have much to say. I would agree with you offensively, and we'll talk about this here shortly, some of the improvements they made coming into this season.
Yeah, 100%. So kind of with that being said, Chris, let's kind of shift gears here if you're ready. And let's take a look at let's take a look and see what can we expect from them, as we kind of transition into spring, kind of going forward here. What are your thoughts?
Well, here, and I've been looking into a little bit of Notre Dame, preseason stuff. I believe they just had their, preseason practice or whatever. Spring game practice type thing, not actually their spring game, but just their practice and stuff, doing live drills, live 1v1 or live 11 on 11, from the reports that I'm seeing, man, their offense looked terrible. And I know it's just practice. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But they said Hartman, man, just didn't look real good. Now I know we could, he's obviously, it's a new team, new players, new system, for him. You guys got to remember, this kid is coming off. I believe he's the ACC's all-time leading touchdown passer, I think, if I'm not mistaken, which is crazy to say that at Wake. But, we're going to expect big things. I know Notre Dame is expecting big things out of him this year, but preview-wise, like I said, I think they bring back a ton of young guys. I believe they have, like, a shit ton of sophomores and juniors across the board on this team. And I guess Christian's got it pulled up here, but Michael Myers obviously gone from last year, or Mayer, he's going to the NFL, I believe, but you got Estime, or however you say his name there. I know he's a damn good back. He's a sophomore as well. They're going to have some guys. I can't think of the wide receiver's name off the top of my head that's coming back. He'll be their number one this year. But I think Notre Dame, like coming into the year, man, there's going to be a lot of hype around just the way they ended the season last year on a pretty damn good season, in my opinion. You know, you cross out a couple losses, maybe the one to Marshall and Stanford, but I mean, still overall, they beat a Clemson team, which I think was an upset at that point. And I like I said, overall, I've been hearing some good things about them. I think they're going to rely a lot on their defense this year, though. I will say that, and I'll touch on that here a little bit later. I want to hear your thoughts, Christian. What are you seeing out of Notre Dame as far as preseason stuff goes, and what's your take, buddy?
You're exactly right. Before I get into the Sam Hartman rumors that I also know to be true as well, and some of the stuff I'm hearing, here you got to take it back and you got to think about they lost Scott Satterfield.
Yeah.
To your, or not Scott Satterfield, sorry. Oh God. They lost their offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees. I'm thinking ahead a little bit too much here. They lost their offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, to Alabama, but you know where I'm going with it. So there was this great big debate of who was going to come in and be Notre Dame's offensive coordinator. So guess who they went out and picked? They actually didn't go very far. They actually had someone last year in Gerard Parker, who was their tight ends coach, who came over by way of West Virginia.
Okay.
Let me kind of give you a little bit of his background here. He was West Virginia's offensive coordinator before coming to Notre Dame last year, right, being the tight ends coach. He was Neil Brown's coordinator, but he didn't really call plays. You know, the guy has a very limited experience at calling plays at this level, right? To me, this kind of sets up, and this is why you might expect this in some of the, miscommunications that you're hearing about that are going on at practice, right? Look, they really need a good offensive coordinator, someone that has experience and someone that has, the proof is in the pudding. And then to me, they kind of botched this hire because Marcus Freeman's a defensive-minded coach. He's their defensive coordinator, right? So he needs to be able to say, hey, listen, you run the offense, you get down there, you do whatever you do. Kind of like Kirby Smart at Georgia did with Tom Monken, and kind of like he has to do with Mike Bobo this year, right? It's kind of difficult because, he is, like we said, he's very limited at calling plays at this level, if ever. So it's just going to be really, really tough. The big thing is they do bring back Al Golden, their defensive coordinator, former Miami coach.
Yep.
That is a huge thing for them to be able to do that. You kind of said it. Sam Hartman, man, he has been struggling in practice. I mean, from all of reports, hey, 7-on-7 on air individual drills, guy looks good, looks crisp, looks like Tarzan, or looks like Tarzan, plays like Tarzan. But when them pads come on and they start putting a little bit of pressure out there on him, plays like Jane a little bit, man. He, from what I've been seeing and what I've been hearing, they've said he's been struggling to make even short bubble throws.
Right.
And it's even at the point where Tyler Buckner, the guy that they were going to tap last year, who was really, really young to take over this team but got hurt, he's been taking a lot of snaps with the ones now.
And exactly, I'm glad you brought that up because that is exactly the reports and the shit that I've been seeing about Hartman, which really fucking surprises me because this guy's a vet. You know what I mean? As far as college football nowadays goes.
Yeah.
I was reading and watching some film a little bit. Somebody had some film on him in that game. And I was like, and like I said, it's just, I know it's preseason and I get all that crap, but just from what I was seeing, I was like, man, he was missing crossers, like 7-yard, crossing routes, which if anybody's watched him play at Wake Forest the last couple of years, he made a killing doing that. I mean, he rarely ever missed one in game.
Man was money, bro.
Yeah. And it was just like, I was watching some of them like, holy shit, dude. Like, I mean, even I'm not going to say that I can make that throw, but I definitely could make that throw. But it was like, for somebody that's been around a while, it's like, holy shit, man. So I don't, like I said, I don't want to dive too deep into what, preseason practices look like. And I get all that, but it is a little, for a guy that's a veteran, you know what I mean? That's been around. Like I said, I believe he's the ACC's all-time leading touchdown passer or whatever. Like, damn, dude. Like, yeah, it kind of makes you wonder a little bit. And the Tyler Buchner kid, man, he looks like he's getting a lot of reps with the ones. They're obviously starting Hartman off season though, right? I mean, you didn't just get this kid in here to not start him, right?
Well, and that's interesting you brought it up. I mean, look, I think if this is true and he continues to struggle, and Buckner keeps seeing those snaps with the ones because they feel a lot more comfortable, with him. I mean, look, it's a young offensive coordinator who's trying to prove himself. He has
Right.
no ties to anybody. I'm not saying, let me kind of give you an example. I thought about this. I didn't write it down here, but I thought about this earlier. The last Wake Forest quarterback to transfer out that was pretty prominent. If you don't, it's okay. His name was Jamie Newman.
Oh,
He transferred. What school did he transfer to? I think it was. I know what it is. I'm just stalling for dramatic effect here. It was Georgia. He transferred in, and before the season even started, he decided to forgo his senior season or whatever have you and start preparing for the NFL draft.
Yeah, how'd that work out?
Well, I can tell you right now, I think the XFL is calling, and that's no offense to Jamie Newman. Look, sometimes you do really, really well, and then you get into a situation where you're unfamiliar with it. The talent is just too damn good, and the system is just too damn. The lights are too bright almost. And I'm not saying that Sam Hartman hasn't played on big stages. I'm just saying quarterback is such a rhythmic thing, and it just seems like by all the reports is you look at a guy like JT Daniels, who had all the talent in the world, Jesus, yeah. But it was just more about what was going on up here. It seemed like a lot of the times, that was kind of holding him back a little bit. I think it's his job to lose. It is Hartman's job to lose. I mean, like you said, they really didn't plan on bringing him here to sit the bench behind Buckner. They brought him in to potentially lead him to a natty and try to, win a Heisman with him, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that just kind of surprises me from what I'm hearing and reading. It wasn't just, this wasn't just one spring game practice type thing. It was multiple, just not looking that good, and it's like, man, like kind of makes you wonder. And you bring up, we've seen a number of guys transfer schools and, different atmosphere. It's, Wake Forest is a smaller school. Notre Dame is, I don't give a shit what their record's been the last year, I think it was 9-4 or whatever. I mean, Notre Dame is a brand. I mean, they're one of the top 10 schools in college football. This is big time, and maybe like you said, obviously the most important part, I think, in a quarterback, I didn't play at the NFL level or anything, but like it is upstairs. You know what I mean? Being mentally tough and understanding the situation, and kind of makes you wonder a little bit like, man, hopefully the lights aren't too bright for this kid. Cause if he plays anything like he did at Wake Forest, Christian, wouldn't you agree that Notre Dame is, they should have a pretty goddamn good season this year with him in there at the helm?
Yeah, exactly. Again, like you said, at Wake Forest, the guy only put up last year 3,800 yards with 39 touchdowns and 159.4 QBR, right? The guy, and you got to think too, Notre Dame plays a lot of crossover games into the ACC, so you would think, okay, he should just not miss a beat.
Right.
And this is where I think this quarterback competition starts to heat up at. You got to look at Buckner. He only played in 3 games last year. Right? He only played in 3 games last year, but in those 3 games, the guy put up 800 yards and 7 touchdowns. Now, he also had 5 interceptions, but he still put up 800 yards and 7 touchdowns in 3 games. That's pretty damn good.
Right. And I think, he was a freshman last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? He was right?
Yeah, I think he was either a freshman or a sophomore or something like that. I don't.
Young guy that was in there. I do remember hearing his name, and like I said, I apologize if I'm off on that, but I think like there's obviously, I think competition is good. I'm a big believer in that, but I still think, I guess, to answer my own question earlier about, I think Hartman's obviously going to start the season off regardless, and they got a couple games right away, and we'll get into their schedule here shortly, but like, I want to say it's pretty pud to start the season. We'll definitely talk about the schedule here in a bit, but I think you'll be fine, dude. Overall, I don't buy into too much preseason practice hype, but it is I'd be a little bit concerned if I'm Notre Dame, just from what we're hearing and what's kind of going around the globe on this guy right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. And kind of to move on with that too, looking at the rest of their offense here. They have a former running back in Chris Tyree. They're moving him over to wide receiver, and he's getting a lot of looks. I think this kid can be a lethal slot receiver. He is quick. He kind of played a little bit of those roles where they kind of put him into motion. He took some handoffs last year in the backfield, kind of led the charge, in the receiving role with him. who would you compare that to? If there was an NFL comp, I don't want to say like Tyreek Hill, somebody like that.
A guy that played in Nebraska and went to Kentucky and tore it the fuck up. Wandale Robinson, man. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Very, very elusive. I mean, he played a little bit of running back here in Nebraska, but they moved him to slot here and they literally abused the shit out of him because they couldn't block. And then he goes to Kentucky. I believe he was the SEC Player of the Year or damn near that year a couple years ago. He reminds me a lot. Small guy, but man, you put him in space. Woo. Trying to catch lightning in a bottle. So like that dude's I know this Tyreek kid who you're talking about. He's very elusive, hell of an athlete. It'll be your SEC. Like I said, Notre Dame's got some pieces. They do. We'll get into it more here, but they're going to be better. I will say this will be better than what they were last year. Hartman is a big piece of that though, for sure.
Absolutely. Tyree put up 582 yards to go alongside 5 touchdowns last season. He's going to be one of those guys that is imperative that they get him up and going. So, wide receiver to me, there's really on the offensive side of the ball, you got 2 glaring question marks. And this is kind of why I think he moved over to wide receiver. They do bring back their not their leading receiver, but they bring back their best wide receivers from last year in Lorenzo Styles and Jaden Thomas. They both combined for 700 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. They need someone to step up. I mean, look, Michael Mayer, and you kind of touched on that, is departing. So they have to have somebody.
Draft, bro. He'll go super.
Well, high. I think Darnell Washington might beat him out, but hey.
Oh, God. No, I get you started.
Come on now, son. No, but listen, I think to me, when you look at this, they have to have somebody step up at the wide receiver position. Has to be, better this year for them. I think the strength of this team, by the way, and I kind of pulled it back up here, is the running backs, dude. I mean, they're returning both their running backs. They have Logan Diggs and they have Audric Estime. Estime, believe it or not, you know who he reminds me of?
Who's that?
Reminds me a little bit of Jerome Bettis, man. Former Notre Dame.
He is a big boy.
Yeah. Guy's a bruiser back there. Both those guys, by the way, combined for 2,000, pretty much 2,100 yards and 18 touchdowns. They're going to have to really rely on them while they try to figure out this whole quarterback thing if it continues to progress the way that it looks right now in spring. Chris, I'll say, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. We'll talk here a little bit more about schedule and what I think Notre Dame's going to be, but I do agree with you. I mean, I'll say this. I think Notre Dame, for them to be successful this year, and I know they brought in Hartman because he can throw the ball, but I think they're going to rely a lot on that run game. I really, truly do in their defense. I truly do.
Yeah, I think they almost have to. Here was the real problem for them last year, Chris, and it was their offensive line. Their offensive line was. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Sorry.
They ranked as one of the worst in the country as far as sacks allowed last year. Wow. I'll give you some stats here. Okay, I don't think you're ready for this. I told you I did a deep dive into this here.
Man.
They gave up 21 sacks last year. Okay, for reference, Ohio, not state, Ohio University, the Bobcats, they finished dead last in the country last year, giving up 25 sacks.
That surprised me. That's Frank Solich's team, who used to coach Nebraska after Osborne.
Mm-hmm. That's
actually impressive. But yeah, I did not know that their line was that freaking bad when it comes to pass protection. That's rough. Jeez.
That's a sack rate of 1.62 per game. Ohio, which we just mentioned, was at 1.79 per game. Again, for reference here, Oregon, which I didn't know this till I started looking at this, had the best at 0.38 sacks given up a game.
Wow. You
can make the argument. I think I know where those 0.38 sacks came from, too, by the way. It might have been in the first game of the year they played last year. I'm just saying.
Yeah. You know what game that was. I would agree. Yeah, Bo Nix was running for his fucking life in that one.
Oh, man. Dude was not comfortable, to say the least. Yeah, so is there anything else to add on Notre Dame's offense here, Chris?
Not really. Like I said, I mean, you touched on it. You brought the best point up, and I didn't know they were that bad. I knew their O-line wasn't great, but yeah, I guess if you're going to, I mean, maybe they can run block, but you got to protect Hartman a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, if they're going to be giving up those kind of numbers again this year with their schedule, it ain't going to look too promising if you're giving up a shit ton of sacks. I will say that. Makes you pretty much one-dimensional.
Absolutely. And, probably, and this kind of brings us to a great segment here, and that is taking a look at why maybe Hartman's struggling. Well, it's maybe the defense he's going against in practice, right?
I thought
I
about that.
mean,
Yeah.
they ranked 22nd in total defense last year. They were 16th in team sacks with 38. They're going to need this front seven this year to set the tone. Now, the part of the problem they have is they lost Isaiah Foskey. Okay, this cat had 11 sacks last year. 11 sacks. Anytime as a single player, and I don't care, college, the NFL, you can have double-digit sacks. That's Will Anderson. That's Lawrence Taylor like levels there, son. You were dominating people.
Right.
I mean, they may not see that production again this year because that's really hard to replicate, man.
No, that's impressive. But that's what I think, though. I mean, they do return a lot of guys. They had a damn good recruiting class this offseason, by the way. I think they were like top 10, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they're going to bring some kids in. And that's what I'm saying, man. If their defense can stay legit, and I think they will, I truly, truly do. Freeman's a defensive coach, like you mentioned before. I find it hard to find that his defense is going to fall off. But, with that being said, though, you still got to be able to put some points up on the offensive side of the ball. And you can't just rely on being just a ground and pound game the entire time. Hartman's going to have to make the throws. Is he capable? Absolutely. But you got who you got a wide out. I mean, you got some guys that can get some space and get opening and catch the ball. I don't care how good a thrower Sam Hartman is with all these touchdowns in the ACC. If your guy's not open, he's not open. So, and you're not getting time to throw the ball, that's even bigger. I mean, that's a real fucking problem. You don't want to get your quarterback killed week 2. So I'm with you 100% as far as this Notre Dame preview goes. Like I said, offensively, I think. Like I said, we touched on that. We're talking about defense now, but I don't see their defense falling. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really, really, truly don't.
No, I'll kind of make this quick here. We'll wrap up the defensive segment here. Look, if they bring back all 3 linebackers, they're going to bring back J.D. Bertrand, Maris Leafu, and they're bringing back Jack Kaiser. That's probably the most experienced linebacker room in the country, man. I mean, these cats put up some numbers last year. So that's got to be pretty exciting for them, bringing that kind of production back in the linebacker room to kind of help lead this, when they're losing a guy who is a juggernaut on the edge there in Foskey. The secondary should be pretty damn good this year, too. They're bringing back one of the best cornerbacks in the country who probably you haven't heard about unless you're a Notre Dame fan, Benjamin Morrison. Okay, you see him right there if you look at the screen that we're sharing where it says interceptions. He had 6.
Like that.
As a true freshman last year, he finished 3rd in the country as far as interceptions are concerned. The young man balled out. And he also had 5 pass deflections too. So
no, that's if you got a corner getting 6 picks, man, that's a hell of a season in college football. So and I've heard the kid, and I know he's a damn good player. I mean, like I said, just overall to make it quick here, but I like I said, I think their defense is going to be just fine. Again, it's going to rely on the other side of the ball, and like I said, Freeman's always been. I mean, Notre Dame's always been really prominent on defense, so they've always had good players come out of there. They seem to be very fundamentally sound for the most part on defense, especially the last 10 years that I can remember of Notre Dame. They're not a team that gives up a boatload of points, unless it maybe was against Alabama or some shit. But that's a whole different story for another day. So, anything else, Christian, you want to talk about on the preview side of things here?
No, I think that's pretty well a good deep dive that we kind of did right there with them. I'm good to kind of move in here and let's take a look at what do we think their record predictions are here, Chris? I mean, how about you start us off there and you tell me what you think they're going to do here, bud?
Well, I mean, I can give you the overall, like what I see here, and if there's going to be. When we do these record predictions, we're not, don't write it down as gospel unless it's me talking. Christian, on the other hand, his head's so far up his ass half the time. No, I honestly think their schedule's tough. I mean, would we not admit that Notre Dame's schedules, they got some big name teams in there. The good thing is, though, they start the season off pretty light. In those first 4 games, I expect Notre Dame to go 4-0. Now, they might not look freaking, crazy good week 1 against Navy. But Tennessee State, NC State, Central Michigan, those should be W's. I think most people would agree on that level. The big one is the Ohio State game week 5. and I'm high on Ohio State this year, so I'm going to stick to the script with me. I think Ohio State gets that W. You move on to Duke, Louisville. I see Notre Dame winning those. I truly do. I mean, not even just on paper. I just think they're the better team there as far as, the deep dive that we've done on a lot of college football this year. I think most people would agree that Notre Dame should easily be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-1 up into that point, 6-1 up to that point till USC. Now, USC to me is a interesting game. These two have been playing each other for a long fucking time now, Christian. We talked about that a couple pods ago, but I'm not as high on USC as you are probably this year. So I'm gonna say they lose that game right now, but then on to Pitt, and Pitt to me is a scary one. I don't know why, just a scary game. It is at home for Notre Dame. USC is at home, but I'm gonna say they do beat Pittsburgh. Clemson game will be interesting. I think Clemson's going to be back this year. I truly, truly do. With Dabo, I think they had a fucking terrible year last year as far as like success goes at Clemson. And I think that's probably my favorite to win the ACC this year is Clemson. So I'm going to take an L with, Notre Dame going there. The Wake Forest is the revenge game for Sam Hartman, which will be kind of cool that he gets to play him. That's actually don't happen too often in college football. And then Stanford. And I think they get the dub there as well. So I'm going to go overall 9-3. I know that's one game better than they were last year, essentially, but I think Notre Dame is a better 9-3 team than last year's team that was 9-4. And I think it's by a lot. I think a lot of this is going to go as far as Sam Hartman can play on offense and they can protect him, as we mentioned earlier. And I think they're going to rely on that defense, man. I truly do. I don't think Hartman has to go in there and sling the ball for 400 yards a game. I think he's just got to be smart with the football, make the third and long throws when he can, and pound the football out of those two backs. I mean, Notre Dame's a young fucking football team. Return some guys. And, more than anything, they got a damn good recruiting class too coming in. So I just don't see how they have a terrible season. I would love to hear your thoughts though, Christian. And what do you think, man?
I think it's a situation, Chris. I got him locked in 8-4. I mean, we agree on a lot of the stuff here. I think they have losses to Clemson, Ohio State, USC, and I'm going to surprise you here, Louisville.
Really?
Now, yeah, the reason why I like Louisville, Jeff Brom, former coach at Purdue, and he's a damn good coach.
Offensive coordinator, yeah, offensive guy, yes.
Yeah, he's coming over, and he can do a lot with a little, especially at Purdue and some of those teams they've had under him. I like him because he also has a guy who's probably might be one of the most underrated quarterbacks in America, and Malik Cunningham.
I know who you're talking about. The kid had a hell of a year last year. He's a damn good athlete back there too. He's one of those RPO style, kind of, it's kind of ironic. He reminds me of from Louisville is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Similar build. I mean, if you think about it though, he kind of is. But yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, explain to the audience here and myself what you see. Why do you think Louisville's going to have like a crazy good year this year? Do you think they're like a top 15 team maybe or something like that? Or you just think that just matchup wise just doesn't fit well for Notre Dame? I'm just curious on this.
Yeah, I think matchup wise, it's not that I think Louisville is going to be a scarily good team this year. I think they can shock some people. And I think this is one of those games where they can shock somebody. To me, I like Louisville just simply because, again, you think about if you're going to have a team that's a top 25 defense in college football, right? Like Notre Dame has, right? How do you beat them? Like think about Georgia, for example. What gives Georgia or Alabama for that matter? What gives them fits? Mobile quarterbacks who can extend the pocket and throw the ball.
Absolutely.
You think about what CJ Stroud, was able to do against him. He was kind of able to move the pocket. I think in a very similar way, if Malik Cunningham, I think if he can kind of, keep the ball moving down the field, I think he's a dynamic athlete. I think the kid he can dice him up, man. I think he can neutralize that defense. Now the question becomes, and I have to kind of do a more research into Louisville's defense. How good can Louisville's defense stop what could be prolific if they figure out their offense, So yeah. But yeah, I like I said, man, I like Louisville in that game. I think they're going to probably come out as maybe at that point, depending on how the season shakes out, probably heavy underdogs. Again, when we get into more betting and stuff like that, as we get into through the season and the more of the odds start coming out, heavy. I would definitely fuck with Louisville in that game.
Okay. Interesting take, Christian. I do like your take on Cunningham. I forgot he's even back again. That guy, like I said, he had a really good season last year. Very dynamic playmaker back there for sure. I don't have too much more to talk on as far as just record prediction here. I think we're pretty close. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, would you say, how do I want to word this? Do you think Notre Dame has a more successful season this year as far as offensively than they did last year with Hartman versus what's his bucket last year? I mean, what do you think? I mean, do you think they have was it Drew Payne or whatever the hell his name was? I mean, do you think that they have a better season as far as offensively?
That is really tough.
Really?
I want to say yes, but here's the problem though. They bring a guy that doesn't really have a track record of running a program here with a terrible offensive line, a guy that has looked really, really shaky right now in practice, and we're not even sure, right? Because I mean, let's be honest, if Tyler Buckner somehow beats him out for the job, Hartman never really actually plays a snap for Notre Dame, transfers or sits out or does something crazy like that, declares for the draft, even I don't know, man. I think it's tough. There's a lot of pieces here where if everything falls into place, sure. But, right now, this early on in the season, from what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, and just everything that we kind of looked at, I've kind of sold myself on, I think that offense might regress a little bit.
Wow. That could be a hot take. No, I guess I'm just very surprised. I think Hartman's a damn good quarterback. I mean, the guy threw over 100 and some touchdowns now in this, college football, man. The kid can throw the football. Yep. And I know it was for Wake Forest, and I'm not knocking Wake Forest, or anything like that. But man, I think he can still throw the football. I mean, Notre Dame does play in the ACC a little bit, so like, I don't know. I expect him. I'm going to go on a different limb there. I'm going to say that Notre Dame's offense is better. I definitely think so. I think Hartman is going to take the job. I'm not going to buy too much into the preseason stuff just because of practice and stuff. But I could see where things though could go south. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen, have we not? I mean, yeah. So I'm not saying it isn't a possibility. I just wanted to kind of hear your take on it and what you thought. So I'll leave it at that on my end.
Yeah, think of it like this. I mean, think about Jeff Lebby coming over to Oklahoma with Dylan Gabriel. You know what I mean? Yeah. When Lincoln Riley, and granted, it's kind of a different story there. Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams, they left, right? I mean, nobody was saying. Well, there were some people that were definitely saying it could be just as good of an offense with those two, because Jeff Lebby is one of the greatest, great offensive coordinators in the game. He's up and coming for sure. And then Dylan Gabriel obviously has played a lot of football. But like I said, I think sometimes you get the thing that also to me makes this interesting with Sam Hartman is this is a one and done year. For him, there is no like next year he gets a do over. It is literally like, hey, next year this time he's getting ready for the NFL draft.
Right, and I see the other side of it too. I don't think he would have went here if he didn't think he was going to be successful or somebody didn't sell him that. You know what I mean? I mean, he could have went somewhere else. Hell, he could have fucking stayed at Wake Forest. I think that's more just like, I think this opportunity, they knew that like, hey, we kind of need a quarterback in here. And it's been a while since Notre Dame, in my opinion, has had a legit quarterback, like an upper echelon guy, if you will, Yeah. Brady Quinns of the world and, Carlisle Holiday. I mean, those guys that's a lifetime ago. And I know you think I'm old, but I mean, it's been a while, Ian Book. I mean, he was good. He had some success there too. I shouldn't write him off either, but I'm just talking like, I mean, I think Hartman can have a big year here. We've seen guys transfer and come over for 1 year and be great too. But like, I also could see it going the other way, but I'm going to put a little faith in him, and I'm going to put a little faith in Notre Dame this year that they're better on offense. A lot of it's going to start with that fucking protection though. And I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, well, Chris, I mean, is there anything else you have left to add, or?
I don't, man, other than take that fucking Georgia banner down behind you. Other than that, I'm good.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would.
you don't even know what a back-to-back looks like. It's been so long.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could say something, but I'm not going to. Um, I do know what a back-to-back. I was old enough to, remember the 70-71 and the 94-95 Huskers. Believe that.
Oh my gosh. Well, brother, listen, let's do this. Let's get into your favorite segment.
Yes, sir.
That we always do here, okay?
Yes. Let's go.
Our hot take of the week here, right? South Carolina wins the SEC champion, or not SEC championship. Sorry, they win the SEC East and they make it to an SEC championship game this year. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna throw it right back to you, Christian, here real quickly. Just remind everybody who's in the East of the SEC. Name those teams. Can you name them?
Yeah, I can. You've got Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, Florida, Missouri, and Vanderbilt.
Okay, to answer your original question, fuck no, they cannot. As much as I actually think SC is going to be good this year, and I mean good is like better than they normally do every year. I think they're going to have a really good year. I think they're going to be a tough out. You just named a couple teams there that I'm sorry. Did you mention Georgia?
Yeah.
Did you mention LSU?
No.
Who else is there? Georgia and what's the other one?
Here, let me help you out here. Let me help you out here, bud.
Let me help you. I can't remember the East West. I can't ever get it straight. Oh, Tennessee. That was a team. Sorry, there was a team I was thinking of. I think I'm really high on Tennessee this year. So, if you gave me like a bet, like what's the odds that South Carolina wins the fucking East? 25%. I mean, that's how much faith. And I'm not saying that South Carolina, that doesn't mean they're going to be a bad team.
I
don't see them being better in Georgia and Tennessee. That's actually who I have Georgia winning that this year. I know you don't, which is fucking crazy because you're a Georgia fan.
Listen, let me fucking learn you something, okay? Let me learn you something.
Pops, what do you got?
All right, check this out. Shane Beamer, right? He's got the Gamecocks believing. Right?
Oh, boy.
Beamer has gone 15-11 since taking over there. All right. Hey, South Carolina, the SEC East, we know. I mean, it's not the SEC West. That's still pretty good though. 15-11 since taking over. Above 500 coach. He's been to a bowl game each of his first 2 seasons. They've improved every year. I'm just saying. They finished the season strong last year. Okay, they beat 3 top 25 teams in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Clemson. They had an 8-win season last year, bro. An 8-win season. He's the only coach in South Carolina history to win back-to-back road games against top 10 teams. And you think they've had some damn good ball coaches up there at South Carolina.
Oh, God. I love your intro to this, and I know you worked hard on it all fucking day at work, but you're not going to sell me on this one. Do I think South Carolina is going to be good this year? Yes, they ended the season super hot. I think a lot of it relies on Spencer Rattler's ability not to turn the fucking ball over. I think they're going to put up some points. I think you're getting a little bit too up on that win over Tennessee last year. What was it, 63-24 or some goddamn crap? I mean, they beat the brakes off them. I can't believe, though, and this is where I have a problem with your credibility, Christian. Yeah, you look around, look down at the floor. No, I do. I have a problem with this.
Let's see. Come on.
No, because you're a Georgia fan.
Uh-huh.
You're a diehard.
Yeah.
You've won what? I mean, you remind me every time on this show, back to back. You think they're winning this fucking thing over your boys? I mean, you don't have enough hype or faith in Kirby Smart this year, who you've brought up a bazillion times about probably the best coach in football right now. I mean, honestly, he's right there.
He's one of the best coaches, but listen, there's a lot of reports coming out of Georgia right now. Carson Beck the other day in practice threw 3 interceptions. I know you're going to say it's against a really, really good defense. And practice, we just got through talking about Sam Hartman for fucking 25 minutes, bro.
I'm not that big on the practice thing of it, bro. You are, man. You like practice? We're talking about practice? I'm doing the AI thing here, man. Practice?
Hey, listen, yes, absolutely. Look, I'm just saying, man, give me a second here. All right. Here's the reality of the situation, Chris.
Oh, boy.
No, I mean, seriously, think about this. Do you know who the last team to beat Georgia at home was?
Actually, it's probably South Carolina.
Yeah, it was South Carolina a few years back.
Okay.
Went on the road and did it, right? Did the damn thing. Now, Shane Beamer wasn't the coach during that period.
Okay.
But if anybody early in the season can catch Georgia, and if I'm not mistaken, Georgia, this is like their first big game they end up playing against somebody, South Carolina. They got a chance. Georgia can get into the season, right? They get lulled in this false sense of confidence over the first couple of games here. You know what? I'm gonna look this up here. Now you've got me curious here. I want to see what their schedule is.
Off and a little hot and bothered that you're going against your own team. And
no,
I'm surprised, man. I'm surprised out of you that you're taking South Carolina this year. Okay, I got a question for you. While you're looking this up, what's the odds? What's the percentage that you think South Carolina wins the SEC East this year? I gave them a 25% chance. What would you, if you're a betting man just like I am?
I figured this is the way this is going. We're probably going to throw down a bet here.
Yes.
Give me on a. All right. So if I'm betting out of 100, I'll take 40. I like 40% odds that they could probably win the SEC East.
Okay. I thought you'd be higher than that for as much praise as you're giving them, but
yeah, they play UT Martin, Ball State, then they go to South Carolina. Or sorry, they play South Carolina at home. So still, you play two nobody schools. You're going to get lulled into a false sense of confidence. You play South Carolina to really kick.
We're talking about.
Yes, it is Georgia, right? It is Georgia, but sometimes being a little bit more hardened, you got to take a look at South Carolina starts the season off against UNC, brother. They're going to play a damn good team right off the bat. What do you?
Right, and they definitely could lose. There's a possibility they could lose that game. Mac Brown's going to put up some fucking points, brother.
And
they ain't going to play no defense down there, but there's going to be some points thrown around in that game.
Yeah, here's the reality of the situation, Chris. If they lose that game, guess what their overall SEC record is?
Well, they're going to be, I don't know.
0-0, son.
Oh, my God. This guy.
So,
what drugs are you on?
What do you mean? What kind of drugs am I on?
Well, I got to ask. I mean, you act like, it's almost like I can't believe. I'm just like astonished that as a Georgia fan, I would never as a Nebraska fan be like, yeah, we're not going to win the fucking conference after we fucking win back-to-back national titles, man. You got to have some faith in your team, brother. I'm just saying. I honestly, but we are talking about South Carolina. I'll get back to the topic here.
Yeah.
Do I think that they're going to be? They are going to be a damn good. They're going to be tough this year. I'm a little worried about their defense. It's not that Spencer Rattler can't fucking put up points. We all know how talented he is, even though I don't like him as, personality wise, but he can put up some points, and you can beat, they're one of those teams, like, to me, they remind me a lot of like who do I want to compare them to, where they can just score a lot of fucking points. I just don't know if they can defend down there though. They got a ton of talent on that team. We didn't talk about the other pieces, but being
kind of like Oklahoma Sooner team.
Yes, correct. You're going right down the route that I am with this. It's just like I just don't know, because the SEC is, to me, is the toughest conference in America, and they play a lot better defense down there than most other, maybe the Big Ten right up there. You're gonna have to play some defense. I just think I think they could. I have them potentially losing to UNC right away. I know you love Mac Brown, right? I mean, you said he's one of your favorite coaches, and he's a great offensive mind, but that's kind of been UNC's like Achilles heel every year too. Is like they can't play any defense, and I kind of feel that's kind of where South Carolina is at. Like they should have a prolific offense this year, Christian, but I just don't see them beating Georgia. I just don't at all. Tennessee, I mean, they're damn good. That could be a shootout as well. I just that's the big thing with South Carolina. If they had maybe like Notre Dame's defense, or throw LSU, somebody like that, then I would be okay. But I'm just not sold, man, on that. And maybe somebody's going to come in here and drop like a super hot take on top of my hot take that SE's defense is just legit as shit. But being this a hot take, I didn't study this a ton, but like just from what I saw last year with the eye test, man, I don't know. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I mean, listen, here at the end of the day, look, they lost a close game against Notre Dame, right? In the Tax Slayer Bowl. It's when you bring that up, 45-38. Yeah, defense was a big question mark for them. They were banged up all year. and they had a first-year defensive coordinator back there trying to kind of rally the boys, as they say, right? I think their defense will be better this year. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be leaps and bounds better. I'm not saying they're 2021 Georgia Bulldogs or fucking Alabama level of defense, but
right.
Well, I can't say Alabama. I mean, fuck, Alabama got their defense is kind of taking big hits. But here's the bright spots. They had a top 25 recruiting class last year. All right. Rattler put up 3,100 yards, 21 touchdowns last year. They bring back leading receiver Antoine Wells Jr. All right. He had nearly 1,000 yards last year and 7 touchdowns. So, I mean, the kid balled out. They have, as far as the SEC is concerned, they have a very middle of the road schedule. They literally have the 7th toughest schedule in the SEC out of 14 teams. So middle of the road. They have non-con games against Clemson, North Carolina, Furman, and Jacksonville State, right? They're going to play at Georgia, at Tennessee, and at Texas A&M. They proved they can beat Tennessee last year. I'm pretty sure they can beat Texas A&M if Texas A&M can't figure out their quarterback position this year again. And like I said, Georgia's breaking in a new quarterback very early on. This is the first real test that they'll have, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of put up with all this.
Yeah, and this is where I will throw this in, where I think they could also lose a game in that schedule that you just brought up, is Mizzou. I know that's not this isn't a hot take. Mizzou's beat them the last 4 fucking times, and it's in Missouri again. Mizzou, for some reason, owns those guys. I watched that game last year, actually, believe it or not, and I don't know what it is about Mizzou and just it's one of those deals where it's just a tough matchup for South Carolina, and they could lose that one too, man. I guess, like I said, this one's South Carolina to me is one of those teams like would it shock me to hell if they won the fucking thing? No, a little bit, yes, but overall, no, really. But man, I just don't see how. I just don't see it this year with Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee's going to lay down under Heupel. So.
Let me
close it up with me right here. What do you got, Chris?
I'll close it to you right here. And this is my piece de resistance for you, Chris. You see this list right here that's pulled up on the screen right here?
Yeah, I can see.
It's the SEC East, son. One of the most, top 3 hardest divisions in all of college football. Bar none. Out of all these schools on this list, guess how many of them are bringing back a starting quarterback from last year?
South Carolina. Will Levis in Kentucky. There's no Hendon Hooker. There's definitely no Stetson Bennett, your boy. Anthony Richardson. Jesus Christ, I didn't just realize this, not to interject, but my God, all the quarterbacks I just mentioned are like fucking 4 of the top 5 guys in the draft. Mizzou, I guess I don't know, but yeah, and I don't even talk about Vandy, but yeah, no, I get it. I'm big on the quarterback returning. I get where you're going with it.
Are one of 2 teams in the SEC East, and then we've already agreed on this. You've said this. I have it on air here. Fuck. The quarterback is the most important position in football.
It is, but it's the end all be all.
It's not. You're right. It's not the end all be all. You got to have a good offensive line. You got to have certain things there.
Got to have a defense, Christian.
Listen, all I'm saying is, hey, Lincoln Riley won a shit ton of games over there at Oklahoma without a defense, bro. Hear me out. They're one of 2 teams in the SEC East bringing back a quarterback. The other team, you know who it is?
Who dat?
Vanderbilt. I'm not saying Vandy's going to be second in this whole fucking thing. I'm just saying.
Going next. That's a super hot take.
The greatest team all time, college football history, 2023 Vandy.
I don't know what you're thinking over there, brother. Jesus. That was a good laugh. Good segment, by the way. I'm glad we kind of got into it on this one a little bit. We needed that. Good stuff, Christian, though. Good stuff, brother.
Yeah. Well, Chris, do you have anything to wrap us up here as we conclude the show?
I don't, man, other than, like I said, man, we'll be back here in a couple days. And like I said, we'll come up with some more good topics. Like I said, if people like this, please comment. Give us your thoughts on who you think is going to win the SEC East. Or we do try to apply, answer everybody and go from there. So I'll leave it at that, man. Christian, this was a good topic tonight. Like I said, it was nice touching on Notre Dame. I think they're, pretty much people I know, everybody seems to be a Notre Dame fan, even if their favorite school is Kansas or somebody like that, right? Everybody likes Notre Dame. So I'll leave it at that. Christian, you got anything else for us, brother?
No, man, I think that's it. Talked a lot, gave a lot of stats, showed why, I love stats and what have you. So, but we'll be excited to get back this weekend to you guys, and we'll be coming live. So be sure to catch us this weekend.